The Farmer from the Town of Rota. Part 1. The beginning of this story takes place in Rota. Rota is a very small town in Spain. It is not far from the Bay of Cadiz. Rota is famous for its fruits and vegetables. In particular, it is famous for its tomatoes and its pumpkins. These tomatoes and pumpkins can be found everywhere in the markets of Cadiz and other important cities of this section. One supposes that the soil of this section must be very good. It must be very rich in order to grow such excellent tomatoes and pumpkins. But the soil is not good. It is poor. It is only sand and rock, nothing more. The winds of the ocean blow hard. They have carried away the good soil. They have left only sand in its place. There is also little water. The soil is dry and hard. How then is it possible to grow tomatoes and pumpkins in such soil? The tomatoes are large and red. The pumpkins are fat and yellow. It is possible only because the farmers of this section work so hard. They work from morning to night. They dig wells wherever there is water. They carry water by hand to their gardens. They use anything and everything to make the soil a little richer around each plant. They cover the young plants with leaves. In this way, they protect them from the sun and from the wind. They watch each plant carefully. They watch the plants which are not strong. They give these plants more water, more attention. They show the plants the same affection they show their wives or children. There is a proverb about these men and their gardens. It is repeated many times in Rota. The proverb is that the farmer of Rota touches each tomato plant at least 40 times every day. Part 2. Uncle Peter was one of these farmers of Rota. He was old. He was more than 70. He had spent all his life on his farm. His back was rounded. It was rounded from years of working over his plants. This particular year, Uncle Peter had some excellent pumpkins. They were fat and yellow. They were fatter and yellower than any pumpkins he had ever grown. There were 40 of them. He knew each one perfectly. He knew each one by name. He was very proud of them. This day he stood in his garden admiring his pumpkins. The next day he decided he would pick them. The day after he would take them to market and sell them. It was almost a pity to sell them. They were so beautiful. But the next day, when Uncle Peter returned to his garden, the pumpkins were gone. All 40 of them were gone. There was not one left. Someone had stolen them. Someone had come during the night and stolen every pumpkin. Uncle Peter felt sick. He felt weak. He could not believe his eyes. He touched the plants with his hands. He wanted to be sure that it was not a dream. He walked home slowly, sadly. Then Uncle Peter began to think. He knew that the person who stole the pumpkins would not try to sell them in Rota. It would be too difficult. Uncle Peter would recognize the pumpkins. Other farmers, his friends, would recognize them. The thief would take them to Cadiz. Cadiz was a big city. It would be easier to sell them in the market at Cadiz. Uncle Peter decided to go to Cadiz. The next morning, the boat for Cadiz left at 9 o'clock. Uncle Peter was on it. He was prepared to find his pumpkins. Part 3. Later, about 11 o'clock the same morning, Uncle Peter stopped before a vegetable stand in Cadiz. A policeman was with him. "Those are my pumpkins," he said. "Arrest that man." He pointed to the man who had the stand. "Arrest me?" said the man with surprise. "Why? These are my pumpkins. I bought them early this morning. "Arrest him," said Uncle Peter. "No. Yes. He's a thief. I am not." "Stop all this," said the policeman. "Please, act like gentlemen." He stepped between Uncle Peter and the vegetable man. Several people were now standing near. They had heard the loud talking. They had come to see what was happening. Among them was the man who was manager of the market. The policeman explained to him what had happened. "From whom did you buy these pumpkins?" the manager of the market asked the vegetable man. "I bought them from a man named Lopez. He is from the town of Rota." "Lopez?" cried Uncle Peter. "Lopez, of course. Lopez is the thief. He must be the thief. His garden is poor. When he has no vegetables to sell, he steals from other people." "All right," said the manager of the market. "Let's suppose that he stole the pumpkins. How do you know that these pumpkins and not others are yours? All pumpkins look alike." "I know each one of these pumpkins. I know each one by name," said Uncle Peter. "I know them as well as you know your own children, if you have children. Look, this one is Pepita, this is Yellow Beauty, this is Manuela. It always reminded me of my youngest daughter." Uncle Peter continued naming the different pumpkins. He began to cry like a child. "That is very good," said the manager of the market. "Perhaps you can recognize your own pumpkins, but it is not enough. According to law, you must have some proof. You must have proof which is definite." "I have definite proof," said Uncle Peter. "I can give you proof right here. These pumpkins grew in my garden." Part 4. Uncle Peter got down on his knees. He began to untie a large paper bag which he had brought with him. He untied the bag carefully, slowly. Everyone was very interested. What was he going to take out of the bag? At this moment, another person came along. He had seen the group of people. He came to see what was going on. "Oh, it's you, Mr. Lopez," said the vegetable man. "I am glad that you came back. This man says that you stole his pumpkins, the pumpkins which you sold to me this morning." Mr. Lopez turned as yellow as some of the pumpkins. He tried to leave at once. The policeman made him stay. Uncle Peter stood up quickly. He stared into Lopez's face. "We will see who is telling the truth," he said. "Be careful what you say," said Mr. Lopez. "You cannot call me a thief. You must prove it. You will go to prison for this. These pumpkins are mine. I grew them in my garden. I brought them here this morning." "We will see about that," said Uncle Peter. He picked up the paper bag. He opened it. He turned it over. Onto the ground fell a large number of pumpkin stems. They were green and fresh. Uncle Peter had picked them from his vines that very morning. Uncle Peter spoke to the group of people. "This is my proof," he said. "These stems are a part of the pumpkins which the thief stole. He left the stems on the vine. He was in a great hurry. Look, all of you, this stem belongs to this pumpkin. No one can doubt it. This one is for this fat pumpkin here. This wide one goes there. Exactly. Do you see? This one goes." Part 5. Uncle Peter continued to place each stem on the exact pumpkin where it belonged. There was no doubt about it. He knew the pumpkins perfectly. He knew where each stem belonged. Each stem corresponded exactly to the pumpkin on which he placed it. The people in the group were surprised. "That's right," they said. "The old man is right. Look, that stem goes here, the other goes there. There's no doubt about it." "It's very clear proof," said the manager of the market. The people were quite excited by this time. They were all laughing and talking at the same time. Uncle Peter was also excited. He began to laugh too. But there were tears in his eyes. Of course, the police arrested Mr. Lopez. They took him to prison. He had to give back to Uncle the $30 which he had received for the pumpkins. Uncle Peter went back home to Rota. He was very contented. On the way, he said to himself several times, "How beautiful those pumpkins looked in the market. It was almost a pity to leave them there. Such wonderful pumpkins, Manuela, Pepita,